name is Melanie Chasteen, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the Texas Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar, which will cover parent participation and engagement in improving sexual and reproductive health outcomes for young people. We are extremely excited to be hosting this session, and based on the number of folks registered, nearly 80 people, it's definitely a topic of great interest. Before we get into the content of today's webinar, I want to share a few tips for using the webinar platform and a bit of background information about the Texas Campaign. First, we have muted all participants to help reduce background noise, but we welcome your participation and questions using the Q&A function you see at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question for one of our presenters, please submit it using that tool. We will have time for questions at the end of the webinar. If you would like a specific presenter to respond to your question, please note that as well. Also, we will email a PDF version of the slides to all participants following the webinar. We will be recording it as well, and we'll post the recording on our website at www.txcampaign.org. Finally, the Texas Campaign relies on data to inform our work for future programming. We ask that you help us continually improve the trainings and resources we provide by sharing valuable feedback through a brief survey that will be emailed to you upon the conclusion of this webinar. For those who are seeking social work, licensed professional counselor, or continuing professional education CE credits, this evaluation is required for us to send you that certificate. I want to extend a warm welcome once again to our partners and colleagues across the state. Many of you may already be familiar with our work, but for those of you who may be engaging with us for the first time, the Texas Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy is a statewide, nonpartisan nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing teen pregnancy through research and data dissemination, advocacy for effective public policies, strategic collaborations, and training and events. We have the privilege of working with so many people across Texas, including healthcare providers, educators, social workers, researchers, coalitions, community organizations, elected officials, philanthropists, and others. As a small organization with a statewide reach, we started leveraging the power of webinar technology this year to grow our engagement efforts. This is the 5th of several webinars we will host this year on a range of topics, and we would love to know about any other areas of interest to you. Once again, when you do the survey, there will be an area in that survey where you can send those ideas our way. And now we would like to turn this over to Veronica Whitehead and Jessica Chester, who will introduce themselves and begin the webinar. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Tuesday. My name is Veronica Whitehead, and I'm the Director of Programs at Ntarupt, located in Dallas, Texas, the North Texas Alliance to Reduce Unintended Pregnancy in Teens. And we are so excited to have all of you all here with us today. I know everybody has tight, busy schedules, and you could be anywhere doing anything, and you chose to be on this webinar, so thank you so much. A quick note. Just a brief acknowledgement and support and disclaimer of our funding. We are a Tier 1B OPA, formerly OAH, TPP grantee, and so that is where our funding source is coming from, and this does not imply that any of this is endorsed necessarily by the US government. So really quick, just a couple of learning objectives. By the end of the webinar, participants will be able to list 4 key recommendations for working with and engaging parents and identify 2 resources for parents. And so before we jump into the content of our webinar today, I want to take a moment and do a collective space acknowledgement. And what this is us as the presenters here today, Jessica and myself, acknowledging 3 key things. The first is that we all bring our experiences and expertise into this space. So oftentimes we're very used to holding space in a physical location, but with technology, being able to do webinars, we hold space digitally. And so we want to honor and acknowledge that wherever you are listening to this webinar, whether you're in your office or in your pajamas at home, we all bring our experiences and expertise into this space. And on top of that, we want to acknowledge that creating community allows for safe sharing of information and knowledge. And so although Jessica and I are leading the webinar today on the topic of parental engagement and recruitment, by no means does this mean that we have all the knowledge on this topic. We can only share our experiences and what has worked well or has not worked well for us. And so we want to invite all people to feel and know that this is a safe space to share information. Again, it's a little bit harder through a digital platform, and so we encourage everybody to really use the chat function. If you hover your mouse down, you should see a little chat box, click that, and feel free to chat with us at any time. We'll be keeping an eye on it to answer questions, and we'll also have several check-in opportunities to allow for the sharing of information. And then lastly, we want to acknowledge that all are welcome and all are experts in their own way. So regardless of how long you've been doing this work formally or informally, everyone here is welcome with whatever experience they bring and are considered experts at what they do, right? Because no one else can speak to your experience or what you've done or how you've done it. And so again, this is a collective space for all people to come together and bring their experiences and expertise. And Jessica and I just see ourselves as facilitators of a larger conversation, because the truth of the matter is we know parent engagement and recruitment is tough. And so we wanted to have an opportunity for all people to provide input and give feedback on what that looks like for them and what ways things have worked. And so moving on, just a really quick background on Ntarupt. We are known as the North Texas Alliance to Reduce Unintended Pregnancy in Teens. We're located in Dallas, Texas. We are a Tier 1B teen pregnancy prevention grantee from the Office of Adolescent Health, now part of the Office of Population Affairs. Our mission here, our vision here at Ntarupt is that every young person in our community has the opportunity to set goals, plan an education and a career, and become self-sufficient before becoming a parent. I'm sure there are probably quite a bit of Tier 1B, 1A, 2A, and 2B grantees on the phone. And so some of the work that we are talking about is going to look very similar to your practice. And even if you're not a current OAH grantee, you might have been a previous grantee, or you just use very similar approaches that a lot of the grantees use. And so just to share a little bit of what we do, like many of you guys, we do a lot, but some of our key services include providing education, providing sexual reproductive health education to preteens and teens through 3 evidence-based programs: Get Real, the middle school version, Be Proud, Be Responsible, and Making Proud Choices. In addition to youth intervention, we also provide a parent intervention, and this will be where our sole focus for today's discussion is going to lie. Our parent intervention is called Families Talking Together, also known as FTT, plus a follow-up that we'll discuss a little bit later on today. And this program is available in English and in Spanish. We also work heavily in regards to linkages to healthcare. And then we also do a lot of work around awareness and community mobilization here in Dallas. And I'm seeing someone mention the audio is a little bit fuzzy, so let me know if that continues to happen, and we can definitely work on that on our end. Is anybody else hearing fuzzy audio? If so, go ahead and let us know in the chat box, and we can definitely make sure this gets resolved soon. So today our webinar is going to focus on 4 key takeaways. And some of you may read these takeaways and think, yeah, we know this is what everybody says to do. This is common practice. But we decided to focus on common practice because sometimes common practice or common advice is not easy. And so we wanted to share how we continue to use these common concepts around parent engagement and recruitment and the ways that have worked and have not worked for us here at Ntarupt. The other thing that I'm really excited about today is the way we're going to walk through these 4 takeaways is first, I will share the program organizational perspective. So I will speak on going where parents are from a community-based organization perspective, and then Jessica will share from a parent perspective what it means to go where parents are. So we're going to tag team this in a way to display and show both perspectives, both the organization and the parent, because again, we're talking about engaging and recruiting parents. And the only way we can get better at doing so is by asking parents what is the best way to communicate with them, to reach them, and to make it a partnership with them. So we'll first talk about going where parents are. Then we'll talk about meeting parents where they are. And this is not talking about physical location. This is talking about other needs. And then from there, we'll talk about being respectfully persistent. And lastly, we'll discuss diversity. The other thing that I do want to mention is you will notice throughout the PowerPoint, there are images embedded from work that Ntarupt has done working with parents. And so all the parents, all the individuals you see in the pictures, we have had previous release forms to utilize the pictures. And when we send out the PDF copy of this PowerPoint, the pictures will be removed. So our first topic, our first key takeaway is to go where parents are. And again, I know that we say this all the time, but what does this really mean in practice, to go where parents are? Parents are at a lot of places. And by parents, I want to emphasize, I'm not strictly talking about parents in the traditional sense of a mom and dad, right? We're talking about guardians of young people, trusted adults of young people, decision makers for young people. And so going where parents are from a programmatic and organizational perspective can mean a lot of different things. So we have to make sure that we are stepping away from thinking about, working with parents between 9 to 5 or between our office hours. While some parents may be available during that time, oftentimes our parents are working or they're taking care of family and loved ones, and they're not available during a time that might be convenient for us. And so we need to think outside of regular business hours to meet parents where they are. Again, this seems like a no-brainer, but sometimes from an organization perspective, we can get so caught up in our office hour work that we don't push ourselves enough to step out of that 9 to 5. And so I encourage everybody to reflect on whether or not you and your organization are pushing yourselves to think beyond your typical 9 to 5 work schedule in engaging parents. And so some of the places that Ntarupt has gone to where parents are in terms of physical locations include places like Zumba class. So one of our parent instructors, who's actually in this picture in the green shirt, periodically will attend a Zumba class where the instructor, after her class is over, then gives her the space and time to provide our Families Talking Together program. This relationship had to be built and established and then later on maintained, which we'll discuss in a few slides. But Zumba class is not a traditional location that we tend to think of in reaching parents. But that is where our parents are. And so we went to them, and sometimes we also take Zumba with them. So really going to where parents are. Another example of places where Ntarupt has gone to meet parents where they're at is laundromats, clinic waiting rooms, churches, their homes, and apartments. And so when we talk about going to places such as homes and apartments, we have to remember that we are in their space. They are allowing us to come to them to where they may be very well feel the safest, such as homes, churches, things of that nature. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring their space and the fact that they're opening their doors to us. And we also need to recognize that we, as an organization, are sometimes having to release some of that control that we may feel we have while sitting in a classroom type setting. And truly embed ourselves in the work of this is a team effort, and our parents are a part of that team approach. Some other places that Ntarupt has gone to where parents are include ESL classes hosted by the local community college, hosted by local community-based organizations. And so in this space, again, we're not thinking about locations such as a school where there are children, which means there are parents. We're going to other places where parents are. So parents are taking classes during the day while their children are in school. And so we've partnered with various organizations who allow us time during their programming to speak to their parents about our Families Talking Together program. A couple of other places I'd like to mention is rethinking health fairs and community fairs and back to school fairs. So how intentional are you when you go to health fairs or school fairs or community fairs? And what is your purpose for being there? So if your only purpose is just to hand out flyers, maybe hand out pencils, stickers, and buttons, and then go home, I encourage everybody to rethink how you can more intentionally engage parents in these spaces. An example I'd like to share is recently we attended a community fair for a local charter school district. And while we were there, of course, we still handed out brochures, information based on the parents' interest, but we also signed up parents for a Families Talking Together course that we're going to be holding in a couple weeks, one on a Thursday evening and one on a Saturday morning. Again, looking at different ways to recruit parents. If the school space won't allow us to physically hold our classes there, how can we go to where parents are? So what local libraries will allow us to host parents? What local community centers? If we go out and do the recruitment and do the follow-up reminders with these parents, how can we then hold space for them to attend and be present? And then lastly, as we're recruiting parents in these various different locations, we also encourage them and ask them to bring friends, bring their family, bring people who they believe and feel may also benefit from this information. Let's be real honest here. Asking parents to come to a class about talking to their kids about sex is hard. It can be scary. We may not know how our parents will react. Approaching people who care about children to talk about sex can be tough, can be tricky, but when we talk about it in terms of framing it in the context of health, oftentimes we find all parents, all guardians, all trusted adults can support and get behind health. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who's going to share with us the parent perspective of going to where parents are.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jessica Chester. I do work with Parkland Hospital Systems, but today I am going to be speaking specifically from the parent perspective. I am a mother of 4.5. We have a little one on the way here soon in a couple months, but we have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, an almost 4-year-old on Thursday, and a brand new 2-year-old. And so mostly I'll be speaking from the perspective as a parent of teenagers. And so I agree with everything that Veronica has said so far. I think it's very important to get out into the community and to meet as parents exactly where we are. But it's also important that you find the stakeholders of those individual communities. Like Veronica said, these people, we're comfortable when you come and you meet us in our neighborhoods, in our local libraries, laundromats, wherever you may find us. We're comfortable there in that space. We know the people there, we know each other as parents. And when some stranger comes in with information like this specifically, we want to feel that that person is a true ally to our community. So representation is really important in your organizations, having some diversity there, having someone who maybe looks like the parents or speaks the language of the parents that you're trying to communicate with, that you're trying to reach, is really important. And so as organizations, there's no way to have the total representation and all the diversity that comes with individuals in the world. But at the same time, there's an opportunity there to partner with community representatives, to partner with the stakeholders of those particular communities, maybe hold train the trainer classes with the most trusted members of that community so that your message is still being delivered in partnership with you, but it's coming from the person that the members of that community in particular trust the most. Busy parents. So as I mentioned, we are 4.5 children deep and we are very busy in our household. I can't always make the evening class, the weekend class, because my children have their own schedules and activities and we're ripping and running and partnering to get them where they need to be. So maybe if you have online content by way of social media, go live. Go live. That allows for parents I can still be at football practice on the sidelines with my cell phone and my earbuds or AirPods, and I can listen to your content. It allows me to type questions in. That allows for the opportunity for Q&A if you go live on a social media page, for instance, online content maybe on your website, maybe some videos there that you can post about particular subjects, one after the other. YouTube videos are awesome. Everybody's on YouTube for the most part, watching one video or another. So online content, I think, is really important if you have the capacity for really busy parents. It's not that we don't want the information or that we don't care to come for it. It's that we literally have no room on the calendar to attend a session that requires us to be somewhere physically outside of what we normally would be doing that day. So that is my take as a parent on the Go Where Parents Are topic. Thank you.
And so we want to hear from you. So what are some places you have found success in recruiting parents, and where has it been more challenging? So go ahead and open up that chat box, and if you just want to write success, semicolon, and list some places, and then challenging, semicolon, and list some places. We'll give everybody about a minute, minute and a half, maybe not that long, 45 seconds to a minute, to go ahead and respond to the question. But we want to honor everybody's shared experience and expertise, and we want to hear from you in the way we can doing a digital conversation on where have you found it successful recruiting parents and where have you found it challenging. Also, I included this little puppy dog who is maybe having success, maybe having some challenges, looking over the screen. And also, it's been already quite a week, and I thought puppies are always nice to look at in the meantime. So they were included in this slide. You'll see more of them there. But remember, if you just hover down below, a little box will pop up, and you should be able to open up the chat function and go ahead and start responding. And so feel free to share with us places where you have found success in recruiting parents, places where it has been more challenging. And we'll go ahead and give everyone some time to go ahead and answer that. And successes and challenges look different between different organizations and different locations. So for one place that may look successful for one organization may be challenging for another. So this is the opportunity to share where and how those places may or may not have worked for you, and how we can maybe do better and recruit other people. We have some responses coming in. So family during the day / night at schools. So I think this might be saying that I'm not sure if they've had successes or challenges, but potentially reaching families during the days and nights at schools. And so families have varying schedules. And so families can be potentially reached at school during the day, but then also going back at night. So this might be PTA or PTO meetings. One of the local schools here has coffee with a principal during the day. And so we're talking about, working with parents and their schedules. So parents oftentimes are found at the school either during school, before school, or after school. So working with their schedule and what the school may already be providing. Thank you, Leanne. Some successes that they are seeing is parent support specialists, or a challenge. Parent support specialists challenge other community organizations outside of school. So successes for Leanne include parent support specialists, and then some challenges include other community orgs outside of the school. Yeah, so partnerships and collaboration with other organizations, other CBOs can provide to be challenging. And so oftentimes, and we'll talk about this in our key takeaway of being respectfully persistent, on how we can engage other CBOs. Interrupt's work is largely through community-based organizations. Only recently have we had success in working with schools. And so I'll share how we have been respectfully persistent in engaging other community-based organizations to allow us access to their parents. Meredith House shares with us some challenges include relying on school to recruit parents for sessions, which can result in a low turnout. Absolutely, right? And so schools have so many different priorities, and it can be tough to rely on them for recruitment when they have their own priorities, right? And we have ours. And so how do we navigate that together as teammates with these schools? Some successes Meredith shares includes being flexible during the time of day, morning coffee, evening PTA, and shacks. Donna shares that they have found success in recruiting parents through after-school education, ACE. Yes. So again, looking at places where parents doesn't always have to include during the school time, right? This can be after-school education opportunities. And so if you want to continue to contribute to this conversation, please do so. Thank you those who have stepped into the collective space and have shared some of their successes and experiences. We are going to go ahead and move on to our next takeaway, but if you want to continue adding more, please go ahead and do so. Oh, and I have one more. Preston shares with us, the biggest challenge is having capacity to focus on engaging parents. Oh, yes. As such a small organization, we're already stretched thin working to engage school district, expand sex ed and training. We're hoping to learn strategies to engage parents, trusted adults in conjunction with some of our other programming. Preston, you bring up an excellent point, and I'm actually going to share that under our Be Respectfully Persistent. I actually had planned to discuss about staff and organizational capacity. So thank you for bringing that up. We will definitely touch on that. So our next key takeaway that we want to share is meet them where they are. And so this is not discussing the physical location, but rather what are the needs of parents. And so oftentimes we come into a space and we have our program and we want to do what we want to do because we have numbers to meet, we have metrics to get. And so we want to keep in mind that there is a balance between meeting the organizational needs and also meeting the parent needs. And so I encourage and challenge everyone here today is to reflect as an organization, how are you listening to the needs of their parents? What are they saying? What are they telling you that they need in order to be successful in parenting and even more specifically to you in the topic that you're trying to share with them? How are you making space to hear their fears and listen to what their concerns are? Oftentimes people, and parents are no exception, just want to be heard. And so how are you creating space for them to share what their concerns are before you just launch into your presentation? And so one example that I'd like to give here in our collective space today is that for many of you who work with the Families Talking Together program, there are a lot of benefits, but there are also some limitations related to the program. And so what we found after our first year and a half of implementation is our parents wanted more. They wanted more than just what Families Talking Together addressed. And so based on that feedback, what we moved to is what we call our Families Talking Together and follow-up. So we still deliver, it's a 2-hour program. We still deliver the 2-hour program to fidelity as it's intended to be delivered. But then we also set up time, typically on a returning date, to come back and provide additional information to the parents. The feedback that we got from our parents is, we were engaging in conversations related to talking to their children about sex, and yet no one had truly had an in-depth, informal conversation about sexuality and sexual health for themselves. And so what we shifted to was providing our Families Talking Together structure, but then also providing sessions specifically on anatomy, sexually transmitted infections, birth control, and where to access these things locally for them. And so again, this was listening to the parents' needs and what they wanted. We came in with our programming, and after reflecting on their feedback, we realized they wanted more, which was actually a good thing for us. They wanted more information. They wanted to be able to protect not only their children, but themselves as well in many different ways. And so I challenge all of us here today to consider what you've always done and how can you do it better? How can you listen to their needs? And listen to their needs beyond childcare, transportation, and food availability. there are organizations who have the capacity, fortunately, to provide those different type of needs. And so if you're one of those organizations who has the capacity to provide for the needs related to childcare, food, or transportation, I want you to think about how can you go beyond those needs of our parents? What else can we help support them holistically? And so from here, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to share with us the parent perspective of meeting parents where they are.
Thank you, Veronica. I don't have too much more to add to this particular topic, but I definitely, for those who are not familiar with the FTT or Families Talking Together program, the importance of bringing it home. So what I mean by that is when I speak to parents, whether I'm doing it from my professional capacity or if I'm just talking to my son's mothers and we're just on the content of teens and what they're thinking about, talking about, and experiencing right in the moment, I always get what I call the, well, not my baby syndrome, right? Everybody else's teens, everybody else's, but not my baby, right? So I think it's really important to bring it home, I mean, right to their front door. When you come with the statistics, you come with the information about how sex and STIs or whatever the case may be are affecting our children, let's bring it home. So let's not go from a global standpoint, oh, the United States, oh, in Texas or wherever you may be located. Let's bring it right to their zip code. Did you know that in 75243, or did you know that in Garland Independent School District, wherever your school district may be, that these are the statistics that, you know, per this many students, this many unplanned pregnancies, or this many sexually transmitted infections? Because I think people don't even realize how relevant this information is to them and to their children, whether it's affecting their children directly or indirectly, right? If it's a situation, it's a problem, or it's a concern in the community, that is the community that your child is living their lives in, whether they're sexually active right now or not. When they become sexually active, this is their pool, right? This is their community. This is where they will more than likely meet a partner. And so if the sexually transmitted rates and infection rates are high, or teen pregnancy rates are high, there's a lack of education in that community. And that very well will or could affect that person's child. So I think it's really important to bring it home to the parents so that it can become real for them and they can start to see that, okay, even if I was not my baby right now, one day it could be, right? One day when my child does become sexually active, you know, these statistics and this data, you know, this is right here where we live. This can affect my child negatively. What can I do about it? How can you help me help my child? And so I think if we bring it home, parents may be a little more receptive to receiving the information.
And so a really quick check-in, we're not going to spend too much time on this one just for the sake of time. And please feel free to still answer this in the chat box, and we have time at the end. We will acknowledge and honor those responses. But beyond snacks and meals, childcare and transportation, how are you meeting the needs of your parents? How are you meeting them where they are? Have you thought about different ways to meet the needs of our parents? We are competing for the time in their very busy schedule. And so how are we honoring them showing up into the spaces where we're at? And then how do we continue to support them, not only in our very specific organizational mission and work, but holistically? If your organization is only focused on getting your metrics or getting your numbers and moving on, people can tell. People know, right? And so we need to look critically at ourselves as organizations and consider, what are our actions showing our parents, showing our community? Are they reflective of who we really want to be as an organization? And one of the ways we can do this is by looking at how do we meet the needs of parents beyond potentially snacks, childcare, and transportation, if your organization is fortunate enough to be able to provide those. And so feel free to respond in the chat box, but we will be moving on to takeaway 3, just for the sake of time. It is flying by so quickly when we're having all of this fun here. So our third key takeaway is be respectfully persistent. This one is, it is interesting. It can be tough. I hope no one got on here today hoping and expecting and thinking that we would have all of the magical solutions and answers, because the truth of the matter is you all, being the experts in your work, already know the answers. Sometimes we need reminders, and sometimes we need to be pushed out of our comfort zone to go further and beyond what we already know can work. If you are doing something and it's not working, have you questioned and critically analyzed why it's not working? And so this is where we like to talk about being respectfully persistent. Ntarupt has been around in our current form for about 4 going on 5 years. And I will share that there are some relationships that only recently have become fruitful, in that there have been community-based organizations or different individuals that we have been approaching and communicating with since our first year of existence. And it took upwards of 4 years to finally be able to break down barriers and have fruitful conversations around engaging parents and talking to children about sex. And so this looks like a couple of things. This could be when trying to partner with community-based organizations, we have to remember and keep in mind, they are the stakeholders to their parents, to the parents that they serve. And we are asking a lot. We're asking this organization that we are, based on whatever reputation you have established, to allow us access to their parents. That is a big ask. And so navigating these relationships with these community-based organizations can be tricky. In fact, the majority of our work here at Ntarupt is through community-based organizations. Only recently have we found success in local ISDs and charter schools. And so we spend a lot of time building relationships and being respectfully persistent. So there's a way that you can be persistent in building communication and relationships, either with individual parents or with the key stakeholders of parents, right? That's respectful. And so this goes back to the initial question that I believe Preston asked, which was about capacity. Capacity to maintain relationships and be respectfully persistent is important. And so beyond waving a magic wand to give everybody more money for more staff and more time and more work hours in the day, how can we focus on parental engagement? And so I will share some strategies that have worked here at Ntarupt. Again, everybody's organization looks different, and so you're welcome to continue this dialogue in the chat box. But a couple of key things that we have approached is being very intentional in our work day and time. And so, planning out ahead, when are we going to go do recruitment? Who is our intended recruitment audience? And what is our desired outcome? And so we've actually created an Excel document that we share within the office on where we're going to go speak with someone, what is our intent, and what are we hoping to get out of it? And then from there, we continue to track the outcomes of that relationship as it plays out. So we will list that we met with them on October 6th, and then we may follow up again in that Excel spreadsheet and say on December 2nd, we were finally able to set up a class. Or on December 2nd, we decided we're going to back off, but then we're going to revisit maybe in February. We're going to revisit around Valentine's Day. And so we intentionally track the communication we have with community-based organizations to enable us to be respectfully persistent. The other thing that we do is we go to other people's events and programming. Again, I know we show up in spaces wanting to do our work, wanting to get done what we have to get done and accomplished, but it's a give and take with working with other organizations, especially those that are stakeholders to the parents you want to get access to. So if a local organization is hosting an event, how can you support that event? Is it that your organization sends 1 to 2 people to attend? Is it that you offer to table? Is it that you offer to volunteer? People recognize when you are willing to pour into their work. And when we do this enough, they tend to then honor that and pour into our own work. And so capacity is tough. If we could wave a magic wand and have more funds, we definitely would. And so we need to think about how can we intentionally utilize our time. So maybe you have Outreach Wednesday, where you set aside Wednesday mornings or Wednesday afternoons to just go and meet with people and follow up with people, whether it's follow up in emails or it's setting locations in advance of places you want to go, who you want to talk to, and what your intended outcome is. And so with that, I will turn it over to Jessica to share us from the parent perspective about respectful persistence.
Hello again. So a lot of what I've already said falls under being respectfully persistent, right? Some parents are just not ready to receive the information, and you just have to approach it differently by way of just seeing how their community is being affected. Partner with safe spaces, like Veronica has already said. Partner with people in the community. Partnership is super important because we can reach so many more people when we don't go it alone, when we do it as a team. So networking is everything. Staying present respectfully is everything. So I give an example from a professional standpoint. We were trying to reach a community at Parkland Hospital. We are with the Women's and Infant Specialty Health Department, specifically family planning. So we came out to a specific zip code, specific apartment complex who we knew needed our services. We knew that these people needed family planning services. We brought a mobile van, we brought providers, we brought outreach staff. We had everything set up to where all the people had to do in that community was literally walk out their front doors and step onto the van. They could get their services, no income, no insurance necessary, pretty much just free for the most part, and have it all done, receive birth control that day, and you couldn't tell us a thing, right? We were Captain Save 'em. We were here to save the day. And we came back week after week after week, and nobody was getting on that van. It didn't matter that it was free. It didn't matter what that they needed the services. They didn't care. What it was is that they did not know us. We had not taken the time to build a relationship in that community. And so we had to backtrack. We had to find the stakeholders of that particular community. We had to build a relationship with them and start completely over. We needed those people who the residents trusted to go forth and say, no, these are good people. You can trust them. You can trust their services. We have vetted them. They're okay. From that point on, not only were we getting people onto our mobile van to receive services, we were able to start, and it's all about capacity, like Veronica said, we were able to start a women's group where we met monthly with them to go over reproductive topics as well as many other topics that they wanted to go over. We built a full relationship, but we had to start all the way over because we didn't do it respectfully. We came in thinking that we were the great Captain Save-ems. We had this great service. It was free of everything they needed. And guess what? It did not matter. So I'll turn it back over to Veronica.
Thank you, Jessica. So for the sake of time, we're going to skip our last check-in question. And there's two other topics that we wanted to cover. So our fourth and final takeaway is diversity. And I am actually not going to speak on this from an organizational perspective because I think a lot of us on this webinar know about it from an organizational perspective. We care about our parents and about our teens and about our community. And so, we may already have ideas of what this might mean. And so I'm actually going to rely heavily on Jessica to share with us the parent perspective of diversity, because oftentimes as an organization, we get stuck in the same trainings, the same messages, the same takeaways, but it's important to ask our parents, what does diversity mean to them? And so I'm going to turn it over to Jessica. I'd also like to add a quick reminder. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to go ahead and add them into the question box. We will try to answer all of them at the end of this next slide. And if not, if you leave your email address, we're happy to also email you back the answer. We'll also make our contact information available at the end as well. So Jessica.
Thank you. So when we speak about diversity from the parents' perspective, diversity, we're not just talking about race. We're not just saying, oh, does everybody look a little different? Do you look like these people? We're talking about gender. We're talking about age. We're talking about family structure, right? So, and I'll have to move really quickly, just for time's sake, but for instance, right, how many of us are doing fatherhood classes, right? How many of us are concentrating on going after the dads, right? In our society, when we think of dads and we think of the talk, when we're talking about sex and sexual health education with the kids, right, we have this, oh, dad, he's like, oh, attaboy, right? The attaboy mentality, oh, good for you, son. But that's not the case, you know? Fathers want to have the information to help their sons and children in general to be successful, right? They want their children to be healthy. And when we're talking about sexual health, it falls under that category. So I think we have to step out of society's mentality of men or fathers not caring. They're only just going to throw them some condoms and say, go for it, good for you, son. That's not the case, right? So having fathers teach some of the courses, if you don't have males on staff for this or dads on staff for this, maybe like we said, doing some train the trainer, things where fathers can reach out to fathers and hold a safe space, right? When I bring up age, I'm really talking about the older generations. Depending on your communities, you may see more grandparents raising the kids as opposed to the parents for whatever reasons. And so some of our grandparents have, in their day, they've come up in a time where there were certain things that it was not okay to discuss, right? So when we're in 2019 saying, hey, we need to talk to our kids about sex, we need to be teaching them how to protect themselves and condom demonstrations or whatever the case may be, you may have a generation of people raising today's kids who that was completely unacceptable to even discuss those types of things. And so we have to figure out a way to reach them, and really it all boils down to representation. I have a community friend, she's an older woman, and what she has started doing is breastfeeding classes for grandparents, for AARP aged individuals such as herself, because grandparents are affecting their children and grandchildren because they have their beliefs and ideas which may not be correct when it comes to the scientific knowledge, the data, and the things that we know are best practice now. And so if we can have peers educate peers, I think we can be a lot more effective in our messaging. And then we don't have older generations contradicting the importance of what we're trying to teach to the younger generations, okay? And then sexual orientation and identity, not just the parent's sexual orientation identity, but what about the children, right? So if we have parents who are raising children who do not identify as straight or who do not, really are just kind of fluid in their identification at all, do we have the proper education in place for those parents to relate to their children and to educate their children? Do we have peer educators? Do we have people that those parents can relate to better relate to their children? So as a parent, representation is everything, right? When I'm speaking to someone who's going to tell me about educating my children, as a mother, I want to speak to another parent, honestly. You know, do you have parents on staff? Do you have someone who's been here and done that, who's not just giving me statistics or giving me knowledge from a book, they've lived it, right? So as a parent, it's really important that, to me, that I feel represented, and I imagine a lot of other parents feel the same way.
Thank you, Jessica. I'd like to remind everybody as we near the end of this webinar and holding this collective space together, that if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the question and answer box. If you hover down below, there's a Q&A symbol. Go ahead and type those in, or it might be on the right-hand side of your screen. Type those in. We will definitely try to give space for those prior to the conclusion of this session. So while people are going ahead and asking questions, if there are any, I would like to talk about two resources that are available. The first one is a new resource launched in February called talkaboutitdallas.com. Talkaboutitdallas.com is Interrupt's new interactive website. And if you go just to talkaboutitdallas.com, you'll see it first launches in English, but up on the upper right-hand corner, there is a Spanish option. And the tool that I would like to highlight here is our conversation starter tool. And so I have two images on the screen. one in English, one in Spanish, but what they both show is if you look at the box that says start the conversation, you can say, I want to talk about, and you choose the topic, and then you say with my, you choose who your audience is, and then hit view, and it walks you through how to have a conversation on various different topics. And so a question is asked, is this content Dallas specific or generally applicable to other areas? Thank you, Preston, for asking that question. It is not Dallas specific. The only place that it might be Dallas specific is two locations. Our clinic finder is specific to Dallas. And then you'll see under enough talking, there is a fact handout sheet. And under the fact handout sheet, there are some specific Dallas statistics. But aside from the clinic finder and the fact sheet, everything else is general and applicable to all areas, including our conversation tool. And so I encourage anybody who's interested to take a look at that. And again, you can filter out what you want to talk about and who you want to talk to with. And so, for example, it'll say, I want to talk about birth control with my doctor or provider. That can be anybody. That can be a teen saying they want to have that conversation. That could be a parent saying they want to have a conversation. But what we want and encourage is for everybody to start talking. The other tool that I'd like to share is at our website, Ntarupt.org. We have aggregated a list of various parent-specific, parent-targeted resources throughout the internet. We are constantly looking to update this web page. And so if you have any parent-specific resources online that you'd like to share, drop them in the chat box, and we will definitely make sure everybody sees those and update our website to include that as well. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And so this is just a small snapshot of all of the resources we have listed at Ntarupt.org. If you have any others to share, please share them with us, or please feel free to check out our websites, both talkaboutitdallas.com and Ntarupt.org. And so we have just a few more minutes left. And so if there are any questions, please feel free to enter them in the question and answer box. My name is Veronica. My contact information is listed here on the screen. Follow us on Instagram at Ntarupt. Jessica's contact information is also listed. So if you have any questions related to the content of this webinar, feel free to reach out to Jessica and myself. If you have any questions related to sharing the slides, more information on the Texas campaign, interest in webinar topics, the digital aspect of the webinar, feedback related to that, feel free to contact Melanie, and her information is included there. Leanne has shared with us that Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts has developed a site similar to Talk About It Dallas called Kids Ask at kids-ask.org. Of course, the site is down. Leanne, I heard about that website a few months ago and eagerly went to it, and also saw that the website was down. So I think I might reach out to PPLM and let them know we're not able to access it, but I've heard it's pretty phenomenal. I want to honor some of the previous comments that were given. Someone shared they meet parents by asking them what topics they would like to discuss. And so honoring parents' needs by asking them, what is it that you want to discuss before we just launch into our pre-planned programming is an excellent choice to meet parents' needs. Maricela has also shared some successes. During regular school registration, they recruited teen parents and had dates and times for the parents of these teens for after-school meetings so they could pre-plan. Our speakers discussed topics that were suggested by previous parents: communication, stress, how to deal with parenting a teen parent. What other feedback do you guys have? Again, this is a collective space. Jessica and I are only here to facilitate the conversation, but we do not want to dictate the conversation. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to drop them in that question and answer box. Again, if you have any other follow-up questions you don't want to share in this space, feel free to email myself or Jessica at the emails listed on your screen. If you have any other great resources, successes and challenges you want to share, please drop them in the chat box. We are so grateful that each and every one of you have taken the time out today of your very, very busy schedules to be with us. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue and the conversation, whether it be digitally or if we happen to see you in person. Thank you so much to everybody who's doing the amazing work that you do. Stay encouraged, stay hopeful. It can be very rewarding, very heartfelt, and also heart-wrenching work. So hang it in there. We are definitely all in this together. And with that, we hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for this webinar. And just as a reminder, slides will be emailed out later today, and we'll also put the audio up on our website at txcampaign.org. And we would love it if everyone who attended would do the survey, but specifically those who are seeking continuing education under social work, continuing professional education, or licensed professional counseling must complete the survey to receive their CE credits. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.